Today we're going to talk about the episode The Practical... What? Hello and welcome back with another episode review of the animated series. Today we're going to talk about the episode The Practical Joker. Well, the Enterprise is studying an asteroid. It's being attacked by 3 Romulan ships, just out of the blue. Apparently they crossed the neutral zone, the Romulan neutral zone, and the Romulans are, without any noticing, they just started to attack the Enterprise. So they started to run away, obviously, from the 3 ships, because even the Enterprise is the flagship of the Federation, but they won't be able to actually win in a combat against 3 Romulan vessels. So there's a gas cloud just nearby, and they actually hide the Enterprise over there, and it's a bit of a full with interesting particles. The sensor didn't really pick up anything. They go through this anomaly, this gas cloud. Obviously they go through the gas cloud and they return to Federation territory. After a couple of hours, matter of hours, I suppose, they ended up having a lunch, a big, massive lunch, the main officers, and because it was a long mission, as Captain Kirk said, so they had a well-deserved rest and a well-deserved lunch. So they started to eat and they started to drink from a glass after having a toast, and the glasses were sort of broken, so all the fluid actually ended up in their uniforms. Kirk tried to eat, and one of the fork actually bent as well. At the beginning it was just funny, everyone just laughed at it because it could have been a malfunction of the replicator, the food synthesizer system. But later on these things started to become regulars, and while at the beginning in a couple of days, for a couple of days they had fun with it, but then Kirk just ended up in the bridge with his new uniform, and and his back of his uniform it says Kirk is jerk. Romulan Nimoy passed away a year ago. Actually, some of the magazines called Captain Kirk as a jerk. So what was intended in one show it became reality, sadly. So, and there was one scene when Scotty was just wanted to order a sandwich, and he got foods everywhere from the food replicator. So it was just a malfunction, so no one knew technically who did these practical jokes on the separate crew members, so everyone started to accuse everyone. It's like, oh, you did this, or even Scotty was accusing RX and Morel because of the food replicator. So it was a really tense situation, and after this incident with Captain Kirk on the uniform, then he had signed Kirk as jerk, yeah, it started to become more serious, and they kept hearing this laugh from the ship. After every single practical joke, basically everyone heard this sinister laugh. Spock had trouble as well in the beginning of the episode with his new instrument. It was interesting because no one knew about anything about this new instrument, but it just appeared on the bridge, and where the previous one was. That was actually funny when Spock finished the examination with this new equipment, that he didn't know how it appeared on the bridge. He got black eyes, so it was just funny. So while everyone tried to figure out what's going on the ship, who this practical joker is, Uhura, Dr. McCoy and Sulu, they go into a recreation room. And I thought the recreation room is basically the same recreation room that we saw in the motion picture, but apparently this recreation room was the holodeck. It made an appearance in the animated series, so in the started timeline it's totally accepted, although didn't really come back till the next generation. Moving forward, they trapped in the recreation room, and the environment kept changing, and they ended up in a snowstorm basically, and while they were freezing for death, and even Dr. McCoy was like, we don't know what to do, but even Sulu was there and Dr. McCoy was there too, man, and come on, and who solved the situation? Who had the best idea? Uhura. I bet you, Uhura had the best character development in the animated series towards, she turned out to be a good leader, a good commander, and now a problem solver as well, so I wish Uhura actually could have been progressed more in the original series and in the feature movies as well. She had more potential. So finally they got out from the recreation room after a long walk in the recreation room, and they get back to the bridge. Finally they figure out, when they were in the gas cloud, the Enterprise picked up a micro life form technically, and it's integrated itself to the main computer. The whole ship started to play practical jokes on the crew, so basically the Enterprise was the practical joker. while this situation was happening in the Enterprise, Kirk and Spock and everyone in the bridge, they try to figure out how they can reverse this thing to actually resolve and restore the main computer of the Enterprise. They find out if they switch the engines off and the computer off, maybe they can find out what happened and they can clear up the computer core. But obviously the computer was self-defense as well, so when Scotty tried to actually switch off the computer, the gravity went off, so they ended up floating around. So obviously this life form didn't want to end its existence on board the Enterprise. So, and what are the odds? The Romulans appeared again. So they started to chase the Enterprise, but the Enterprise, this life form aboard the Enterprise came up with a practical joke again. A big balloon came out from the cargo bay, and technically it was a giant big balloon Enterprise, and it was 3 sizes bigger than the original Enterprise. So obviously it scared the hell out of the Romulans at the beginning. They tried to destroy this balloon, and they ended up popping the balloon technically. And when this happened, obviously the Romulans got really angry and they headed towards the Enterprise. Kirk figured out if it's a practical joker, they have to play a practical joke on her. So Kirk basically ended up playing a practical joke on the computer, and he wanted to escape from the Romulans obviously, and he figured, okay, if he pretends he is afraid to go in through the nebula again, maybe it will reverse the polarity, and maybe the computer, maybe this practical joker will do the opposite. And actually that happened. Kirk was so frightened, and he was just almost crying in the bridge, like, no, I don't want to go through the nebula anymore. So they ended up going through the nebula, and somehow they reversed the polarity. Sounded like Doctor Who, to be honest. So they reversed the polarity, and this creature had to leave the Enterprise, the computer core. So the Enterprise got cleared, but while the Enterprise going through the nebula, the Romulans are following as well, and the Romulans got this practical joker on board. They got an audio signal from the Romulan vessel, and the Romulans basically ended up having the same practical joker on board the ship. Bones was actually asking Kirk, is like, okay, would you like to tell them how they can get rid of this practical joker from the ship? And Kirk was just laughing. It's like, you know what, we'll tell them later. So the episode itself was actually quite hilarious. It was a really light episode. It was I didn't really have any problem with it. I mean, the only thing is that I should mention is the recreation room, aka the holodeck, that appeared first time in the Star Trek franchise, and I think that was the first time in the TV history. Obviously, in non-TV history, it was in the Star Trek chronological order. It was the second appearance, because we kind of saw the same thing in Enterprise in the first season. The other thing, apart from Uhura and her character development that I talked about before, I really liked Scotty and the ship. Scotty was so caring towards the ship. Scotty basically said, it's like, keep it together, lad. He's so caring about the Enterprise. I can't really stress it. Jim Kirk can call the Enterprise his ship, and she will be there for him all the time, but the real job and the real caring, the real passion towards the Enterprise, I think it's in Scotty. And in this episode, I just honestly adored all of these little segments that Scotty had towards the Enterprise, towards the ship. I was really happy actually to see RX and Marex interacting more with the crew and being in the episode more often. Obviously this was a sort of silly episode, but silly and charming in a childish way. But obviously I really loved the fact they've been in the episode, and I really hope I'm actually gonna see them there's only 3 episodes left, so I hope they're gonna make it till the end, because I think they had potentials as well, and the animated series actually had lots of characters that could have made an appearance in the later incarnation of Star Trek, but it never happened. Maybe Star Trek Discovery it will one day. So as a rating for this episode, I would totally go for a 5 out of 5. I didn't really have any problem with it. Actually, I had a really good time with laughing with the crew. And as I said in the previous video, growing up with Star Trek, if you really understand the feeling what comes with Star Trek, you will understand this episode as well. I mean, it was a really light and really it was just the episode that I needed, to be honest. I needed to laugh, and as I said in my previous video, I didn't really have any chance to laugh in the couple of last weeks, but yeah, it was refreshing and it was good, and I really enjoyed it, and I would totally recommend to watch it because it was a fabulous episode. I think that was it for today, guys. Thank you very much for watching. As I mentioned last week, it's gonna be a sort of special video this weekend. It's sort of a special topic. It's still gonna be Star Trek, so don't worry. It's still gonna be Star Trek. As always, thank you very much for watching. Don't forget to check out my website where I have articles up regarding Star Trek Discovery, all other Star Trek news and geeky news as well, Doctor Who discussion as well, like mind melding, and even meet the fans section that actually I had interviews with fans, so please go and check it out. You can reach me over Twitter and Instagram, and also don't forget to like and share the video, and a subscribe is always appreciated. Until next time, live long and prosper.